So, just in case you don't know me, my name is Maitreyabandhu. I live and work here at the centre, teach here at the centre. And I've been exploring this meditation toolkit, which is really a set of meditation teachings that started on Monday and continue on till Saturday lunchtime. So if you can, see if you can come tomorrow and Saturday, and it'll go on from here, yeah? And if you can, have a look at our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see yesterday and the day before. We forgot to do it on Monday, which is just as well, because I wasn't so pleased with Mondays, to be frank. Eventually I'm going to publish my greatest hits. And it wouldn't have been Monday anyway, so we're fine for that. So what we've been exploring in this meditation toolkit is the Buddhist vision of meditation, which is a movement from ordinary consciousness, everyday consciousness, which is a consciousness dominated by what Buddhism would call prapuncture, which means mental proliferation. One translation I've heard, which I think is rather good, is surplus thought. You know what it's like thought that can't even be recycled. Thinking, planning, fantasizing, remembering, opinionating, all that sort of thing. Stories, narratives going through your head. Ordinary consciousness, I'm afraid, is dominated by that, isn't it? Very often, we're not living in and through our body, we're not living in and through our feelings for others and our desire to help others. We're living very often in a noisy, chatty, broken up inner narrative. Yeah? So the first thing we're trying to learn to do is step out of that into what Buddhism calls samadhi. Samadhi is a state of mind above and beyond ordinary consciousness that's exemplified by wholeness, a feeling of wholeness, of unification. I spoke about this quite a lot the last 2 days, so I won't go on about that. Then once you've had this state of unification, which is extremely, as it deepens, extremely pleasant, samadhi can become ecstatic, blissful, and so on. Yeah. When you even touch into samadhi, it's really what you want. It's much more pleasurable, I was saying yesterday, than a cheesecake and a back rub or any other pleasures you could get. It's a level of pleasure that when you touch it, it's very fulfilling and such a relief, actually, such a relief. You hadn't realised how much noise and chatter and stress there was. And in samadhi, all that noise and chatter quietens right down. Yeah. Now you can't make that happen. You can't force meditation. If you try to force meditation, it just makes matters worse. So the first thing I was saying is we all need to keep learning to step out of prapuncture into the feelings of the body. That's what I was talking about on Monday. On Tuesday I was talking about the 5 nirvanavas, these coverings of our mind, and how to work with those. Yeah. I won't reiterate that, that'll take too long. But mainly yesterday I was talking about the importance of taking full responsibility for our mind. Really taking ownership of our life. This is who I am now, this is what's happening for me. Yeah. So just as I was preparing today for the meditation, I suddenly, as I was washing my hand, noticed that I was resenting someone. I hope this doesn't come as a terrible shock. But don't worry, there's no one in the room. I suddenly found myself, I don't know whether you don't do that. I suddenly found myself resenting someone. And when you resent someone, it's very easy to get into, especially if you're English, like me. Resentment is the English way of hatred. You're very polite. They may never know about it, but you resent them. Yeah? It's worked for centuries. But when you resent someone, it's very easy. In your mind, you're focusing on that person and what they've done and why you feel aggrieved by them. Yeah. So it's very easy to think that this isn't my mental state, this is them and what they've done. All of us do this in all kinds of ways, completely natural. But you see how what the Buddha is trying to say to us is we need to realize that this is a mental state of resentment. This is not in my own best interests. It's not me being happy and well. And it's not going to foster a higher level of consciousness, a samadhi experience. Yeah? In fact, it's going to close my life down. Do you see how this taking responsibility for your mind is much, much harder than it looks? Because in the moment, it's that person did that, and I'm aggrieved for these marvellously good reasons. We've always got terribly good reasons. It sort of focuses on the person out there. As soon as we do that, we make ourselves passive. So meditation, you start to notice, that the aim of meditation, first of all, is to start to really see what state of mind you're in and take full ownership of it as your state of mind. It's not to do with this person having said these things, which means it's quite appropriate for me to feel aggrieved in these ways. In a way, the Buddha's not really interested in that kind of stuff. He's just saying, yeah, but is it helping you now? Is this actually what you want to be spending your time doing? This human life that's so short, is that what you want to do? Just want to be washing your hands before a Buddhism class you're teaching? Resenting someone, is that a good choice? He'd have that kind of attitude. I think we'd be quite frightened of the Buddha. He tends to come across as a sort of sweetened figure, but it'd be quite frightening. He wouldn't have any truck with any kind of blame at all. He'd have no truck with this current tendency of modern life towards sort of ideological hectoring, moral posturing, righteous indignation, all that. He'd just sort of think, well, that's just horrible. It's that's just your bad mental state. He wouldn't be very forgiving of that, I don't think. So first of all, we need to take these. The mental states we get into, we need to take ownership of them. That is my mental state. As soon as we do that, we're now in charge of our life again. So what are we going to do about them? Yeah? Yesterday I was saying the first thing we try and do is not take them personally. I rather like the koan of this, that you have to take full ownership for them, but not take them personally. By which I mean don't think that they say anything. They don't say anything really about you. So it's not that I need to worry about, I'm a resentful person, or what is it about me and resentment. I've just got a bit of a habit of resentment, partly because of my English, lower middle class background, etc., etc. I've just got, that's my habit, just as some people's habit might be a habit of blame, yeah, or a habit of anxiety or so. So once you take responsibility for it, you just don't take it personally. It's not saying anything about who you are, what kind of person you are. It's just saying something about the habits that you've got into. Yeah, that's all it's saying. But it's also saying you need to change those habits. So don't take it personally, and don't get caught up in the perspective of a hindrance. So those are the three things we need to do when you get distracted. Take responsibility for the state of mind that it's coming from. Fully own that, even if it's painful. Then don't take it personally. It's not saying anything kind of metaphysical about who you are. And then don't get caught up in the perspective of the hindrance, if you can. Try to keep stepping out of the hindrance into how does it feel. So if I am feeling resentment, or if you are, try and drop below the narrative of blame. They did that and I feel aggrieved for these excellent reasons, into the feeling of resentment. What does that feel like? Where do you feel it? How do you feel it? You don't feel that word resentment. There isn't a part of my psyche with resentment written on it. It's a nexus of sensations, isn't it? And you have to go up to those sensations and feel those sensations and take ownership of them and breathe with them. That's what I was sort of saying yesterday. The next stage of meditation, of settling into samadhi, once you've taken responsibility for your mind, and golly, that's a big enough job, because you're not trying to do it in meditation, you're trying to do it all the time. I remember once queuing for a bus and people getting off, and I was trying to get on, and I thought, why are people knocking into me? It can be surprisingly irritating, people knock into you. You can see it on the tube sometimes. People really flare up if you knock into them. And I think, why are they knocking into me? I think, well, they're not actually knocking into me. They haven't thought, who should I knock into? the grey guy, you know. He looks, that's the kind of person I want to knock into, you know. They're just knocking into someone. This is what I mean. It's we that take it personally as me. They're just knocking into someone. That's all that's happening. They're not knocking into you, not knocking into me. Yeah? But it's very easy, isn't it, to take it personally. So once we've taken full responsibility for our mind, once we've tried to not take it personally, to try to feel our state of mind as a sensation, not as a narrative, now we're meditating. Yeah? As soon as we're doing any of that thing, we're meditating. The next stage is to notice how our states of mind, particularly our negative states of mind, but also some of our apparently positive states of mind, they make us contract. They make us grip and grasp. Yeah. So what I was also saying yesterday is we need to really look at, feel into, where am I gripping in the body? Actually, weirdly, you can grip in your body and you can grip emotionally. And you can hold on to your feelings of resentment. You know what it's like when you kind of forget them for a bit, and then you just relax and you think, then you say, and you go back into it again. You know, you remember why you should be feeling resentful, you re-rehearse your knockdown argument for when you see them next time. So weirdly, we hold on to that emotionally, and we hold on to things with our mind. That holding on tendency. Eventually you're actually holding on to a sense of self completely, and if you let go of that, the universe will completely change. Yeah? Perhaps we'll come to that at the end of the seminar. I don't think I'll manage to get there, but so the next thing to do is really start to look for where are you holding on in your experience, where are you gripping, where are you tightening, gripping, grasping. It all blocks your capacity to move from ordinary consciousness into samadhi, yeah? From distracted, conflicted consciousness into unified consciousness. Yeah? That's what we're trying to do. So every time you're holding, gripping, grasping, tensing, you're keeping yourself small, really, effectively. You're keeping yourself in ordinary consciousness, and it's just not good enough. We deserve much more than that. Yeah. We settle with far too little, letting our lives rumble on in mild anxiety, in mild indignation, and mild, sometimes not so mild, but mild feeling of victimhood or whatever. We allow ourselves to do that. All of us do at sometimes. And it's just not really good enough for us. It's not really what we mean. We don't want that, not really. So in a meditation, you really try to look for where you're gripping, where you're holding. Best place to do is look in your body first of all, because that's the most straightforward. Yeah, but you can then get subtler and subtler and look for emotional gripping and even mind-made gripping. Yeah, grasping and so on. So that's where we've got to so far. So I want to say a little bit more about that, I think, and then we'll have a go again. And again today, on this week, I think we're just going to mainly just do the mindfulness of breathing, not because there's not everything to say about metta, but I think that's a whole other thing that I'd like to explore at one point. At the moment, I'm just wanting to keep it very simple. So let's keep on focusing on this matter of gripping, and how do we work with that, yeah? And what we'll do again is we'll do the first stage and the third stage of the mindfulness of breathing. So the first thing I want to say about it today is the attitude you bring to meditation generally. Yeah? Very, very important. I need an attitude of creativity, of playfulness, and of learning. Yeah? And that's very different to an attitude of goal setting, an attitude of forcing, etc. Yeah? So any meditation, when you sit down to meditate, you need this creative attitude to your experience. It's very easy with meditation, just as it is with anything else, to sort of do it in a very predetermined, habitual way, where you just do what you do, which is usually, frankly, not very much. Just bobble along in a vague meditation state. So you're trying to be really creative and playful with your experience. What do I need to do just now? What am I feeling just now? And this is why taking full responsibility is so important. Until you know where you are just now, it's very difficult to know how to work in the meditation. So if you're tense just now, you need to feel that tension and work with that, work through that. If you're resentful just now, you need to feel that resentment and work with that and through that. Otherwise, you're kind of starting mid-air. Yeah. So you need to really start to get more and more of a sense of what's going on. You don't need to do that analytically and ask yourself. You just need to feel it, and try and have this attitude of bringing to your experience this kind of playfulness. So it's not too... I don't mean playfulness in the game-playing sense, a silly sense. I just mean a sort of lightness of touch, experimentation, what works, trying things out. Not just trying things out and then dropping it, but trying things out for a bit and see what happens. What happens if I try this? What happens? Let me just try it this way. That's why it's so important to keep coming back to the centre and learning anew, because you have to keep on learning how to do it now. Things that worked even a month ago won't work now. Sometimes even things that worked yesterday won't work now. So you need this attitude of creativity, of flexibility, of playfulness. And you always need this attitude of what can I learn from my experience now? So if I'm sitting down and I've still got this resentment, hope I haven't, what can I learn about how to work with this? Really important to work with that. So what can I learn about that now? Not, I'm terrible for feeling that, or I wish I didn't feel that, or I wish they'd changed their behaviour, all of which are rather tempting. Just what can I learn from that experience now, and how can I learn to work with it? I've been feeling more and more that why questions aren't useful. So it's not why am I experiencing it, but how can I work with it? Yeah? Why questions tend to take you down the rabbit hole of analysis, and that actually frankly doesn't go very far. So just what am I experiencing? Can I feel it? And how do I work with it? Not where does it come from? Why is it there? Usually, well, in my experience, it might be different for you, but in my experience, when I ask why questions, I get myself into a bit of a state. Why am I like this? I can't believe it. I thought I was a nice guy, and here I am. I can't believe it. After all these years, I'm resenting people. Oh, God, why questions, I think, are self-frightening. So just ask, what is it that you're experiencing, and how can you work with it? Yeah. And then play a bit. Okay, let's try this. Let's see whether I must be holding on to it somewhere. Can I feel myself gripping it and holding on to it? How would I let go of it? I could imagine letting go of it. I can breathe into it, like I said yesterday. I could breathe through it. I could extend my awareness around it. Yeah, I could just bring the breath in a bit more strongly and try and bring more concentration to that. So play with how you work. Yeah, and that attitude of exploration, creativity, play in the right sense, not in this sort of silly sense, in the right sense. That's every meditation you need to come in with that attitude of exploration, of play. Yeah. So what you're always explaining is how can you get into the meditation more deeply? How can you let go of grasping and gripping and holding? How can you start to move towards samadhi, this new consciousness? And one way of doing of not gripping is to keep on expanding your awareness to fill your whole body. Really simple way of doing it. Yeah. So, like if you're full of propuncture just now, so if you've just come back, you've had a busy meeting, you've been talking a lot, you sit down and you're all talk, you're all chatter in your head. What you can do is just expand your awareness to include your whole body, and you'll find it has this horrible, well, especially if it's very compulsive, you're thinking, horrible buzzing feeling in your body and also in your head. It's like electrical almost. Do you know what I mean? When you sit there and this sort of buzzing electrical, it's like too much thought going through too poorly wired bit of electricity. It's like overkill, isn't it? And you can just try and feel, well, what does that feel like? And try and keep opening to that and stretching your awareness to fill your whole body. So one simple way of making sure that you're not gripping, is to keep on stretching your awareness. Yeah? So every time you get distracted, instead of what I was saying yesterday about exploring how that feels, you can do that keep trying that if you want to, but I'm giving you different ways to play with on this toolkit. Another way is to notice that you've got distracted. What's happened there is your mind has shrunken to that distraction, or your mind has focused on your knee being painful, or your mind has gone back to that resentment. It's narrowed. So all you need to do is stretch it back out again, to feel your whole body. So you don't need to even think of, I shouldn't think about that, I need to stop doing that. You've just gone from that and you're just trying to stretch it out again. It's a bit, my metaphor for it, so strangely, I don't know whether I've actually seen this, is making a pizza base. I don't know. You can imagine, I've never done such a thing. You can just buy them, can't you? I have eaten a lot of pizzas, but you know, when it's all like that, don't they flap it open or something and stretch it open, do they? Any pizza makers? There's something, I forget. You know, it goes from something sticky and conglomerate, and you try and stretch it out again. Yeah. So that's all you need to do, is keep stretching out your awareness to fill your whole body, allowing all the sensations to be there. That itself will start to help you untangle, unknot, ungrasp. Yeah. So just stretching your awareness out, but really noticing when you go off, not at all being pejorative about that, not criticising yourself for that, even in a very subtle way, because that becomes automatic and habitual itself, a sort of tut every time you notice you've gone away, and a sort of subvocal tut to yourself. That just really won't help. As soon as you've noticed you've gone away or gone focused on a part of your body, just stretch your body, stretch your mind out to fill your whole body. Even if your body is really uncomfortable, you know, I experience quite a lot of discomfort in meditation for various reasons. Just see whether you can say, it's all right, just let me just feel the whole body, comfortable and uncomfortable. And that itself will calm your whole system down and start to help you, if you don't react to discomfort in your body, will start to help you move from ordinary consciousness into samadhi, into this unified consciousness. Okay, I think that's enough for now. Tomorrow I want to talk about where you go from there, because the next thing we need to start to do is look for pleasure. But I'll leave that hanging in the air. Pleasure. I'll leave that to tantalise you to come tomorrow and the next day. Yeah. So make sure you've got everything you need, your cushion and whatever.